everyone, Phi Farley here. It's December 12th. Got a best bet coming to you. College basketball coming off another win. Yesterday, Prairie View A&M getting the job done, plus the 19.5 in Arizona State. Never really in doubt. That was good. I mean, they were getting close. They never got beyond that 19.5, though. I think it got to 15. They even made a run at a lead there close to halftime, potentially winning that game. But in the end, I think it was a 9-point overall loss, covering easily the 19.5. So there you go, Prairie View A&M, nice winner yesterday. So we want to keep that rolling today, even though, unfortunately, we don't have a lot to pick from. And not only do we not have a lot to pick from, we have potentially a couple trap lines here. I don't want to call them trap lines. One actually may be. So I want to talk about that, having capped it, side and total, just kind of where I'm at with it. I'm going to get to that in 1 second. Before I get to that, let me say thank you to subscribers. I really appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, take a second to do so. Hit the notification bell. Get my picks as soon as they come on out. And even more so, those over on patreon.com/Phi Farley, getting every one of my picks every day. I appreciate you as well. Can't tell you how much that means to me and keep me motivated to putting out content and putting my plays out each and every day. So got college football. I've been breaking those bowls down. That video, a couple videos will be coming out on that. And of course, NFL will be coming out here by tomorrow at the latest. May actually come out here by the end of the day for a best bet this weekend. Nice slate here this weekend coming. So check that out as well. All right. Let's talk about tonight's slate. Okay, again, 4 games. We've got Northern Iowa, Grand Canyon, Iowa State, Southern Wright State. We got Austin Peay and West Virginia. So immediately, I want to look towards the dog side with only 4 games, or what's at least going to be the less public play in only 4 games. We have a lot of consolidation of funds here when people only have 4 games to pick from. So they're going to try and squeeze a play into a game they probably don't know a lot about, which means you're going to have a lot more money coming in on a public play than you normally would. So one of those public plays that I saw it immediately, was waiting to see the line. It was Northern Iowa playing at Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, I am down on. Not a huge. It's not that I'm not a huge fan. I have been a fan in the years past, but this year's team is just not nearly as good as previous Dan Marley teams. So I was looking forward. While Northern Iowa has been outperforming the market, they're 6-1 against the spread. They've done really well. So if they're 6-1 against the spread, something's got to give here on an isolated Thursday night. This game, going against Grand Canyon, which has not been covering as much, you know that money's coming back on the Northern Iowa side. This line opened up at 4.5, and it's been bet up to 7. I just have a really hard time taking the Northern Iowa side, but I have an even harder time to take the Grand Canyon side. If I had to make a play, I would still go Northern Iowa. But if you look at Northern Iowa's games, there's been quite a few that actually would not cover 7 points to inferior opponents, even to that of Grand Canyon. So there could be some merit to this, coming off a big game against Colorado, which they hung into the end, and now they have Grand Canyon right after. They may. I'm glad I'm not playing that one. So we're passing on Grand Canyon, Northern Iowa, but I wouldn't be surprised if Grand Canyon covers 7 here, just because Vegas is not run by idiots. All right, but where I do like to go, Iowa State, by the way, looked at the total. We have 2 really, really good offenses. Iowa ranked 4th offense in the country. Both teams can run. Both teams up tempo. And years past, this game has flown over the 160 mark quite consistently. But the line has pushed down a little bit, and I want to keep an eye on that as we get closer to tip. It opened at 158, has gone down to 157.5. Some markets 157. So there looks like there's a little bit bigger money coming in on the under. And when we have 2 teams that run into this type of style, and then we see a line go down, it's concerning to me. And so it keeps me away from playing that over. So Going to be passing on that for the time being. It's still early in the day. May dig in a little more as time goes on. But now let's get to the best bet. Southern Wright State. That's right, Southern Wright State. First, I want to give a caveat that we only have 4 games. So it's not like a slate where we have 60 games to pick from, and I'm picking the cream of the crop, the one game that I think is going to be the winner. We only have 4 games, all right? So I do see a little bit of exposure here with Southern plus the 16.5. Wright State has one of their top players, Loudon Love, their big guy, 15 points, 10 rebounds a game, is out. He went down in the LaSalle game, and since he's gone down, the level of play by Wright State has gone down with it. They lost that LaSalle game. He went out in the first, 8 minutes of the game, ended up dropping the game 72-70. They squeaked by Miami of Ohio. Not a great team. They squeaked by with a 5-point win. They squeaked by Western Kentucky, a little bit better team. They squeaked by a 2-point win. Then they lose to Indiana State by 7. So the team that originally was beating other opponents by a little bit more. You know, they have a nice 15-point win against Weber State. They then lose Love, and now they're not quite as dominant. Meanwhile, and you know, another thing I look at is we're getting 16.5 here. There wouldn't be a game yet this year that Wright State has covered that number, regardless of opponent. Meanwhile, Southern, on the other hand, Southern, much like Prairie View A&M, has been one of the worst teams in the country. They have been 353rd in years past. Now, this year, they're not exactly blowing the walls off, but they are doing okay. Southern, 337th now in the country, but they've played one of the toughest schedules. 4.4 points better than the average team. On average is their opponents, number 67 strength of schedule in the country. And now we add 16.5 points to their games with similar opponents. What kind of results do we have? Well, they would have covered against Tulane just barely. They would have covered against Akron just barely. Covered against Nebraska. Teams of which they would not have covered, they also would have covered against New Mexico State. Many of these teams better than that of Wright State, especially without Love. Now we got Murray State. They did not cover against them, but that's a better team than Wright State, as well as Omaha would be the other one, Nebraska, Omaha. So one outlier there that they did not cover. When it comes to a wager here, I think we get value, though, getting 16.5. Now, I'm going to give one caveat. The Southern's schedule is brutal. They are not going to have a home game until mid-January. They've been on the road here for a few games, and now they don't head home until mid-January. Their next game is against Butler, at Butler. So they just have a brutal schedule. Meanwhile, Wright State has Mississippi Valley State up next. So not a huge concern about that. They're playing back-to-back home games, and then they had Indiana State in the loss, so they may try and bounce back here. I always want to show the other side and what's there. That's why this isn't like a clear-cut, if there were 60 games, going to be the top play. That said, on an isolated game, I'm going non-public, going with the less popular Southern team here to come through on what looks like on ESPN a 92.3% chance of winning Wright State for a team that's covered 4 out of 8. And Southern, meanwhile, has covered 5 out of 7. So Southern may not win. They may not even be in it, but they could absolutely cover this one. We'll look for about a 12-point loss here to Wright State. I'll take the 16.5 with Southern Jaguars. All right, there you go. Best bet thrown out there. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. Check out patreon.com/Phi Farley, and we'll see you again soon.